Hello, I'm Jason from StrataGames, and today we're playing some more Pauper. Foundations has just hit Magic Online, so you know that we have to try out the Hare Apparent. This is a new Relentless Rats style card, that being a card that you can have any number of in your deck. It's a 2/2 for 2, and when this creature enters, you create a 1/1 rabbit creature token equal to the number of other creatures you control named Hare Apparent. So the first one is just a 2/2 for 2. It's a bear, it's nothing special, and that's definitely the aspect that's going to hold the deck back a little bit. But as soon as you get a second one down, you get one more rabbit, and then you get two more rabbits, and you get three, etc. So this is a deck that I just threw together to kind of get the idea rolling. I did use some ideas that I found from the Pauper subreddit regarding the Hare Apparent deck. I think that just a mono white deck with Hare Apparent is going to be just a worse white Weenies deck. I don't think it's going to be all that special, and you're going to not have the value of that deck. But I thought there were a lot of interesting cards to try to make a deck splashing one other color. For black, Echoing Return would be a really sweet one. Return all of your Hare Apparents from your graveyard to your hand. I couldn't find another black card that really helped the deck, and I felt like just one splash card wasn't going to be enough. I wanted at least two. For green, I thought of Echoing Strength, which gives +2/+2 to target creature and each other creature with the same name, but then realized that that's pretty much just a worse Guardian's Pledge, seeing as the Hare Apparent and the rabbits that it makes are not going to have the same name. And the other one was more of a Boros Bully style deck, going with like Goblin Bushwhacker and Rally the Peasants and stuff like that. Anyway, I think this is probably the best and most interesting, at least that I have so far, which is a white-blue variant. So our blue cards are Keep Watch, draw a card for each attacking creature. So if we play a couple Hare Apparents, ideally we're able to attack with at least 3 creatures, I think is the bare minimum to play this card, unless you're really going to die without like a divination, but 3 or more. But if we can draw 5 or 6 or 7 or 10, that's absolutely great. And then the other one that I think is going to be sweet is Stormscape Familiar. After we've drawn a million cards, this is how we make it so that we can actually play all of our Hare Apparents. Because 2 mana is a lot if you just draw 10 cards. You're not going to be able to cast them all. But if you play 1 Familiar, all of your Hare Apparents are going to cost just a single white mana. The important thing there, though, is every single card is going to cost a white mana. So we don't have any lands in our deck that don't produce white. We just have 4 Idyllic Beachfronts and 4 Eagles of the North for our blue sources, which I think is going to be totally fine. And if we're able to cast an Eagles of the North, we're going to be able to buff our team, which is great. I have a 1 of Idyllic Grange as another card that we can get with the Eagles, and then just a bunch of planes as well. I did see a lot of people brainstorming this deck and saying, 24 Hare Apparents in the deck and then a few spells. I think that's way too many. I don't think you need more than 16 of the card. Yeah, you're not going to get as many of them, but honestly, a lot of the times when we draw one, we're going to wish it was a spell that blows up our opponent's creature or draws us cards or whatever. So I think 16 is plenty. I think a Lunarch Veteran is going to be really key to keep us alive against any red matches or anything like that. And it's also our only 1-drop in the deck, although we do have a few tap lands. And then Thraben Charms as a little bit of removal, but we have some free spells that are really good too. Of course, Prismatic Strands is an all-star in any white creature deck. This is going to help keep our creatures alive through breath weapons and the festivities and just lightning bolts and things like that. And then we also have Remosian Rally. If you control a plains, you may tap an untapped creature rather than pay this spell's mana cost. Creatures you control get +1/+1. So a free +1/+1 to your whole team as long as you have 1 untapped creature. So a guy with Summoning Sickness, or maybe you leave 1 back when you attack. But this is going to make it so that we can prevent a breath weapon from wiping our whole board, keeping all of our Hare Apparents alive, even if we're tapped out. Or if they end the festivities, we can keep our whole board alive. Or it can just be a very nice combat trick in combat. We also have those Guardian's Pledges, so we have a whole bunch of ways to buff our team and hopefully just get in and kill our opponent. Then for the sideboard, we have 4 Hollows to keep our creatures alive even better, Standard Bearers for Brood Scale or, Auras matchups, Destroy Evil, that's how you pronounce that word. Kind of just a holdover from my White Weenies deck, but I didn't really know what else to put in here. Dust to Dust, and some more Thraben Charms. So sideboard's pretty standard, and we want to keep pretty white. I don't want to be tied to the blue mana, so I didn't have any blue spells that I really wanted to put in our sideboard. But let's jump into some games and show you how sweet this deck is. Game 1 here, we get an okay hand. We have our blue source, and we have 2 lands with the Eagles, although it's pretty slow. Remosian, Rally, and then some Hare Apparents. It's just good enough. I think we'll keep it, but definitely it looks a little bit slow. Hopefully we won't get run over. We are on the play, so we get to play our beachfront out right away. Pass to them, and a Sacred Cat from them. Off of plains feels a little weird. Could be like mono white something, or Could be Cog Gates, but usually they play the Sacred Cat quite a bit later. We get to play one of our Hare Apparents down now, because we drew a Plains, which was great. They Ethereal Armor twice on the Sacred Cat, so it looks like mono white heroic. We're just going to take it. Luckily, we're going to start pumping out rabbits that can chump that pretty nicely. Of course, as lifelink, though, so it's going to be really hard to race. We are going to attack for 2, though, and try to race anyway, and play one of our Apparents down. They have a Sentinel's Eyes and a Hyena Umbra, so now it's got First Strike and Vigilance, and 11 damage. Really not helping us here. We just take it because might as well chump it later. We definitely need to find some removal for it, and I will say this deck, I went very light on the removal since we were trying to do our own Apparent thing, and so we might just get screwed by this cat. But we have chump blockers for now, so we will see. We play another Hare Apparent, make a bunch of guys, and pass, and they have a Benevolent Blessing to give it protection from white, which I realize just now I scooped to. This effect doesn't remove auras and equipment you control that are already attached to it. Okay, I was going to say, wait, that should make all of the auras fall off and it'd only be a 1/1, but this one specifically says it doesn't do that. So, yes, we scoop. They're going to be able to attack for 1,000,000 unblockable, and we are dead right away. Not really the showing that we wanted, especially to start it off. But we know that this deck is a little bit of an against the odds style deck, and we're going to have to just deal with some of those matchups. So we get to put in all 4 of our standard bearers, our extra Thraben Charms, and our Destroy Evil as ways to get rid of enchantments, and also to make them target our standard bearer with their enchantments. We take out the Remosian rallies, they don't seem very great, and then just a 1-of a bunch of cards. Honestly, it hurts to take some of these cards out, but it feels necessary. The standard bearers and enchantment removal is definitely what we want. This is one of the reasons I think 24 Hares is way too many. We only have 16 in our deck and 4 of them in our hand. It's just absolutely unplayable. Obviously, this hand's unplayable no matter what spells these are. But, you know, it's just, what if this and this were also Hares? It would be terrible. So we're going to mulligan this one for sure. We get this hand a little standard bearer flooded, but we like the look of that. We're going to put 1 of them back, but definitely keep 2 to get their guys to target us. And they play a Lagana Band Trailblazer. This is one of the best ways that they can start their game plan. Luckily, we get a standard bearer down, and they're not going to be able to target it with anything that could target the standard bearer. They're able to just kill it right away with a Thraben Charm, but lucky for us, we're able to just play another one and gain a life off our veteran. They do get to Betroth the Beast, though. Create a royal attached to target creature you control, so it can't target the standard bearer. So that's one way they can get around it. They attack for 2 here, and we're just going to take it, of course. Swing in for 2 damage of our own. And I have this Thraben Charm. It can't quite kill the Trailblazer, though. I'm just going to play down a Hare Apparent. We want to get those going, and I'd like enough creatures that I can shoot this with the Thraben Charm at some point, if possible. So gain a life and pass back to them. They go on the offensive, attacking for just 2 more damage, so it looks like they don't have much going on here, which is good for us. Passing back to us. We draw another Hare, so we don't have a lot either, but we are attacking them for more damage than they're attacking us for. They're down to 14, and so we're just going to play another Hare Apparent. I don't want a Thraben Charm now, because if they have any sort of combat trick that they are able to cast on the Trailblazer, it's going to keep it alive. Or if they have another Thraben Charm of their own and they're able to remove one of our creatures, we wouldn't kill it either way. So we're going to just put more creatures down on the field and see if they have anything. And they flash in a Benevolent Blessing on our standard bearer, which is the only creature you can target, and chooses white. Can't be the target of white spells anymore, which means that they can now start casting their enchantments on their Trailblazer again, because this guy can't be targeted by white spells. So that was a really clever way to be able to get around the standard bearer. So pretty sweet from them. They have an Ethereal Armor for it. Going to be buffing it up to a 6/10, and then another Ethereal Armor, all the way up to a 12/16. We're going to chump it, because if they have another way to give protection, we don't want them to be able to kill us. Luckily, it doesn't have lifelink yet, so we can still race here, and hopefully that'll be enough. We're going to attack for 6, putting them to 8, which is not bad, and just play another Hare Apparent. It's more chump blockers, and they just concede right there. They didn't have lifelink, they didn't have protection, although protection wouldn't have done anything without the lifelink, and so we're just able to get the win there. We get another acceptable hand, just the one standard bearer, so if they're able to do their Benevolent Blessing trick again, they might be able to get around it, but we're going to keep it. They start with their Trailblazer, so it doesn't look good for us, but we get down our beachfront, draw another Hare. They play an Ethereal Armor, buffing it to a 2/6, then attack and miss their land drop. So things are looking okay. We're going to just play that standard bearer so that any other auras that they're able to play can't go on this guy, unless, of course, it says enchant creature you control, which apparently there are more cards that say that than I thought in this deck. So a little bit annoying. They get to attack with their 5/9 now, and we're certainly going to take it again. We could just start playing Hares, but I want to be mana efficient. Prismatic Strands costs 3, so I'm probably just going to cast that here to prevent their damage. Then I can cast it for free on a future turn, and I can play both Hare Apparents next turn. We're trying to also build up to that Keep Watch so we can draw a bunch of cards off of them as well. And we have a Guardian's Pledge, so that could be good too. So they're going to swing with both, and we're just going to prevent all of the damage from white creatures, meaning we can't kill their warrior either, unfortunately. And they have a Stave Off for our Standard Bearer, which apparently can target any creature. Gains protection from white, so they can put a Spirit Link on their Trailblazer, which means it's going to have lifelink, essentially, and they're going to be able to start gaining some life. It's going to make it hard for us to race. We draw an Eagles of the North. We're just going to follow our plan, play both Hares out. We have that Prismatic Strands if we want to prevent their life gain, or we can just chump block, and we decide to go for the chump. They're going to gain some life off this guy at some point unless we just draw a bunch of Prismatic Strands, so I might as well do it now when it's only 7 damage, a little bit more manageable than if it's like 13 or whatever. So I'm going to do that, and they have an Akroan Skyguard, which is really just a 1/1 if they can, unless they can get rid of the Standard Bearer in some meaningful way. We cycle our Eagles for an Idyllic Grange, and we do draw another Prismatic Strand, so that's 3 more turns of preventing all of the damage from their guys that we can see. We Idyllic Grange up the Standard Bearer and swing for just 4 damage here, just to chip in for a little bit. They attack with 2 of their creatures, and I flash back the Prismatic Strands in our graveyard rather than going for the mana-efficient play of playing the one from hand, because I don't want them to have a Thraben Charm and be able to use it to get rid of both Prismatic Strands from my graveyard. That would be very bad, and I might not be able to recover from that. So it's mana inefficient, but it's card efficient. So I think that's a little bit better. Take no damage here. And I don't want to keep watch for just 2 cards, so we're going to keep it for now. They play another Trailblazer, which probably won't be a big deal. We draw Beachfront, so almost going to be able to Prismatic and keep watch here. We get to attack for a little bit more damage, not a ton here, but we're doing what we can. They draw Plains and just swing with those same 2 creatures again. We're going to Prismatic Strands. We're trying to keep their life total low enough that we're able to get in here. And so prevent all of that damage and pass to our turn. We draw another Prismatic Strands, which is exactly where we want to be, just getting Prismatic Strands over and over and over. So we are attacking for 6 here, getting in for 4 total, putting them down a little bit, and I now have the ability to Prismatic Strands and keep watch. I wanted to attack with everything for 2 reasons. 1, I wanted to incentivize them to attack with all of their creatures so that I can draw 4 off of the keep watch, and that does that in 2 ways. 1, I don't have a 2/2 to block their warrior token, but also I don't have a creature up to play my Prismatic Strands. And then I'm going to play the Prismatic Strands from hand. We could still get gotten by that Thraben Charm trick that I was talking about before, but we're going to be drawing 4 cards off the keep watch, so I think it's worth the risk here. They Benevolent Blessing the Standard Bearer, doing the same thing as last time, and then have a Hyena Umbra for the Skyguard, growing it to a 3/3, and they have a Sentinel's Eyes for the Trailblazer. So turning all of their creatures into some creature that deals at least a little bit of damage. They do take the bait and swing with all 4 of them, so we get to keep watch to draw 4, which gives us a couple pretty good cards, Lunarch Veteran and a Thraben Charm, and then we're going to Prismatic, prevent all of that damage from the team. And they're at 17, and we have a Guardian's Pledge on board. So I play my Lunarch Veteran, but I want to clear this Trailblazer with our Thraben Charm and attack for 6, so that I'm able to potentially kill them with a Guardian's Pledge next turn, knowing that we still have 2 Prismatic Strands in our graveyard that we can flash back if we need to prevent them from gaining any more life or beating us in the race. So we're going to throw out that Standard Bearer as well. It's just another attacker and also another creature that they have to target, since they don't have to target this one. Thraben Charm, the Lagana Band Trailblazer. Swing for 6, and they're going to take it down to 11. We'll pass the turn, setting the trap. Hopefully they attack into us with their creatures yet again, and we're able to get them. They just swing with the big creature, and it is the lifelink one, so we're going to have to prevent the damage either way. Leaving back 2 blockers. We get a Prismatic Strands. We swing with the team, and if they block 2 2/2s, they will survive the Guardian's Pledge here, going down to 1 life, although they will lose both of their other creatures. And we do have a Prismatic Strands in hand because we've been lucky enough to draw all of them. If they have a Prismatic Strands of their own, then they could live this turn, but I don't think that this is usually the type of deck that plays Prismatic Strands, so I'm not too worried about it. So they just block one of them, we go for the Guardian's Pledge, and we are able to deal them lethal damage. Round 2, we're finally seeing some of our Stormscape Familiars, which we have the blue for from the Eagles of the North, so it looks like it could be pretty good. This hand's not amazing, I will say. We don't have any interaction, and we don't actually want 2 Familiars unless one of them dies, but I don't think it's a throwback hand, especially on an unknown deck. If they're mono red, for example, the Veterans will be really good. They play a Perilous Landscape, so it looks like they're probably going to be Izzet Control, which is a terrifying matchup, I will say. Counterspells are definitely the bane of this deck, and sweepers, but we have accommodated for sweepers with all of the Remosian rallies and also the Prismatic Strands, and we don't really have an answer to counterspells. So we're going to see how it goes. We do have to cycle our Eagles immediately for the beachfront, play that. They preordain off their island. We're going to attack with a Veteran and play a Stormscape Familiar, just so that we can maybe start playing multiple white 1-drops. Well, Hare Apparent will become a 1-drop, but they Galvanic Discharge the Familiar right away, so that's not looking great, I will say. They ponder and find their 3rd land, Volatile Fjord. We find our 3rd land as well, so we get to attack for 1 here and just run back the Familiar play. See if they want to kill it yet again, and they do with a Scred, but we still gain 1 life out of the deal. Then they slam down a Murmuring Mystic, and we regret not having any removal in our deck, except for 2 Thraben Charms, which is not going to be very good. We play a Lunarch Veteran and then a Hare Apparent, but I will say, without killing that Murmuring Mystic, they have to have all lands in hand, otherwise we're pretty much dead right away. And they have a Ponder, so things are looking rough. They're able to make blockers. They might be able to race us, but even just blockers to trade with our guys is pretty bad. They cycle a Lorien, we find a Plains, and we just don't have anything to play. We can attack with our whole team to keep watch, but that doesn't do anything. They do Breath Weapon at the end step, and we're able to Prismatic Strands to keep our guys alive, which is not bad, but it's not great. They're making birds along the way, still have 3 cards in hand. And they play a Crimson Fleet Commodore, and we have really no recourse, no way to take this Monarch or anything. We draw an Eagles of the North, but we're 2 lands away from being able to play it, so we're just going to Idyllic Range up this Hare and pass it back to them. We just don't have anything going on, really. They swing with the Crimson Fleet Commodore, and I decide I'll trade for it, or rather trade the Prismatic Strands in our graveyard for it. They Scred our guy, and we cast the Prismatic Strands from our hand. They do get a bird out of it, but at least they lose their 5/2, which is something anyway. And then they play a Tolarian Terror. Not really sure how we're supposed to beat that. We draw a Hare Apparent, so maybe we can go wider than them, although they have just as many creatures as we do at the moment, and theirs are looking a little bit better than ours. If we can get them to attack with everything and draw 5, maybe we have a chance, but we can attack with everything, but we kind of lose a bunch of our things. So that's not really great either. They're going to swing with their Terror after playing a Lorien Revealed, so tons of cards in hand. We're just going to take the 5, but they play another Terror, so we don't even have a good attack yet again. So we don't even have a good attack, but we draw Plains, and we decide we don't really have anything to do anything anyway. We might as well swing. I should have played the Plains first, because if I keep watch into a Guardian's Pledge, I will want to play it more than likely. But I did not. So that was definitely a big mistake, and we'll see if it ruins us. They block everything, and we go for the Keep Watch, drawing 5 cards, and that's what we draw. 4 Hare Apparents and a Plains. So, but imagine if we had 24 Hare Apparents in the deck, we could have drawn 5 of them. So, pretty bad showing, I will say. We get to bring in a Destroy Evil, 2 more Thraben Charms, and 4 Hollows, which help against Breath Weapons, but honestly, we don't really have anything to help against Terrors and Murmuring Mystics except for Thraben Charms, but we'll see how it goes. This hand is not great, but it is lands and Hare Apparents and a Thraben Charm, which we'll need, so we play it and play that beachfront. We draw another Apparent, so we get to slam one of them down, a nice 2/2 for 2. They crack their Landscape and then play a Mountain. And a Relic right away, which is honestly pretty annoying because we have this Prismatic Strands that we're going to want to use, and if they're just going to be able to sweep it away, which is kind of annoying. They cycle a Lorien after we attack them for 2, get their island and play it out, and they're going to preordain, so it looks like we're safe from the Breath Weapon for this turn, going to be able to attack for 5. play a plains and swing the 3 creatures at them. They're going down to 13. I could play the Guardian's Pledge, but they have counterspell mana and they had like a lightning bolt or a scred, which obviously would only take care of 1 creature, but I also really want to leave up this Prismatic Strands in case they do have a bolt, or rather a breath weapon. So we're going to do that. They preordain again, so they could still hit a landed breath weapon. They have a Volatile Fjord, though. They're going to pass to us. And in our upkeep, they're going to Galvanic Discharge the Apparent. And I cast our Prismatic Strands here, which I realized was not the right play. I cast that so that I can keep our creature alive, of course, and we think we want to do that. I should have Guardian's Pledged here for a couple of reasons. One, it would have also kept our creature alive because they can only pump 3 energy into this. They couldn't deal it 4 damage. And we're going to be able to swing for, not lethal damage, but we're going to be able to swing for 11 damage, putting them to 2. Suddenly we only have to hit them with 1 hair, and they're going to die. They'd be holding on by a hair there. And by casting the Prismatic Strands, we're walking into this Relic of Progenitus, which is also pretty annoying. So I think I made a pretty big mistake there. We keep our creature alive either way, but the Guardian's Pledge I think would have been a little bit better. We swing with the 5 anyway, put them down to 8, and pass the turn to them. Since we didn't draw land, either one of those we cast in our upkeep was going to yield us not being able to cast anything else. And then they have a Tolarian Terror here, but imagine that they were at 2 life and not 8 life. We might be able to get in. Now, if they don't have any removal with this 1 mana, we can attack and we can Guardian's Pledge, but they'll block an Apparent and we can hit them for 7. And I think that if we deal 7, put them to 1, and then we lose one of our Apparents, we're probably not going to be able to get in for enough damage at all, frankly, is my thought. So I think it's a little too risky to do that. I decide to play one of our Hare Apparents, and I do this before combat so that we don't lose one of them first. We'll have an extra rabbit this way. And then I still decide to swing with the team, because if they do have a breath weapon coming, I'd rather get in for 3 damage first. But if that was lethal damage, we could have won. That's kind of how that works. They Relic of Progenitus us, and I Thraben Charm to blow up their graveyard on the end step to try to prevent any more terrors from coming out. They have a Spell Pierce for it, though, which is obviously a little bit annoying. We'll lose a card to the Relic, and then they Relic us again, and then they have the Breath Weapon. We have 1 Hare Apparent. We kind of sandbagged it so that we would not have none, but they have another Terror, so I really think we threw this game. I think we could have gotten them there. Maybe they had like a lightning bolt that they weren't showing, or that they haven't shown yet. But if they didn't, we would have just been able to kill them right there. And then they have a Murmuring Mystic, attack with 2 terrors, pass the turn. And if they have nothing here, I can kill them because I can attack with the team, they'll block 1, and I can Guardian's Pledge. I also cycle this Eagles for an Idyllic Range, but they have to have no spells at all. Even an instant speed cantrip like a Brainstorm will allow them to block 2 of our creatures. And they have the Scred for 5 damage. I can't even keep the Apparent alive with the Guardian's Pledge. They block both our creatures, and we're going to die, unfortunately. So I do think I threw that game. If it went to game 3, I think that they're heavily favored, but maybe we get a similar game to this one and we're able to pull it out. So my bad. I haven't played Hares before. Round 3 here, we get a pretty acceptable hand. Nice curve and some card draw, so we're going to keep it. And they mulligan to 5 here, so I decide rather than going for my Idyllic Beachfront, getting my lands tapped and everything first, I just want to be a little bit more aggressive, so I just slam down my Lunarch Veteran, then I'm going to play the Hare, and then I'll play the Beachfront, but I might use Thraben Charm as a removal spell. If they've mulliganed to 5, they might have a rocky start. We might be able to take advantage of that. So we start with the Veteran. They play a Novice Inspector, though, so it looks like it could be White Weenies or something like that. Obviously can't attack here, but we do get a Hare Apparent down. And they play Rafine's Informant, ditching a Lunarch Veteran. So it does look like White Weenies. Kind of a mirror here. Obviously not exactly, but we definitely have a very similar game plan. We have another Hare Apparent here. We're going to gain 2 life, and we get our Idyllic Beachfront down. And I'm happy to trade the Hare for their Informant. Apparently they're happy about it as well. And they have a Militia Bugler, getting them another Bugler. Apparently they're not yet on my Martyr's Soul version of the deck, which is kind of outrageous. I cycle in Eagles of the North for an Idyllic Grange to buff up our Apparent so that it can attack past this Militia Bugler. And then I just decide to attack with the whole team, get a little bit aggressive. We have this Guardian's Pledge, and they very kindly block 2 of our creatures, so we can Guardian's Pledge, hit them for 5, and eat 2 of their creatures. Seems like a pretty good deal to me. Pass it to them. We know they have that other Bugler, which they're going to play right now, and it doesn't find them any creature. Imagine if that was a Martyr Soul that they could have played for 1 or 2 or 0 mana, and it could trade with a Hare Apparent. It would be getting you just as much value, if not more. Then we draw Remosian Rally, which is not as good as a Guardian's Pledge in this instance, but still a nice way to make our 1/1s eat a 1/2. So I attack with everything here, kind of bluffing a Guardian's Pledge, hoping they won't go for the same block that they just got screwed over by, and just like block one of them, like with the Novice Inspector. They do block both of them anyway, so we have to 4 mana cast the Rally, and we lose a 1/1, but we eat their 1/2. So it's not as good, but we also get in for 4 damage again, putting them down to 11. They Journey to Nowhere my Hare Apparent, and you know what I think as soon as that happens? We have a Thraben Charm. All they're doing is giving me more Hare Apparent triggers. So they are absolutely fools. They flash back their Luminous Phantom, getting a nice 1/1 in the air, and attack us for 2 Vigilance. But we are still above 20 life with this Veteran, and we draw another Hare Apparent, so we're able to play one of them, and then we have this Thraben Charm up to blow up the other one. Then Keep Watch can maybe draw us some more cards, which will be pretty nice here. They are going to play another Bugler. Let's see what they get. Oh, look. It's nothing. Bugler is trash. Thank you. They attack with their 2 creatures. We Thraben Charm the Journey and make another Hare Apparent, as well as a Rabbit. And then we get to double block the Bugler. They're out of cards, so we know there's no combat trick here, and we're happy to trade a 2/2 for their 2/3. They draw, or rather gain 1 life off of the Phantom and crack a clue here. We have that Keep Watch, but we're still hoping for more than 3 cards, and then we draw another Keep Watch, so it's acceptable for me here, I think, to attack with my team, sacrifice one of my creatures to draw 3, seeing as we can hopefully get some more Hares out of it and things like that. And then we can use another Keep Watch to draw, a bunch. And we are quite a bit ahead here. At 23 life, we're not really pressured by them. They only have 1 card in hand, so I think it's okay to make this trade. They go for the block, not scared of the Guardian's Pledge. We Keep Watch, draw into 2 more Hares and a Plains, which is not bad. Obviously, we lost one of them for that, but the second one will hopefully give us more Rabbits. They swing for 3 here and get a Novice Inspector, getting them another clue. We just get a Plains, so we're going to play our Hare Apparent. Not going to go for the same attack this time, seeing as we can attack for 5 next turn and gain 5 cards, which will be quite a bit better. They crack a clue, and then they have an Eagles of the North, which looks pretty good, but since we're still at 23 life, I really don't mind taking a hit here for as much as they want to do, and it's only 5 damage, so happy to go to 18 here. And we draw another Plains, so this is the time where we're happy to attack with the whole team. Ideally, we're able to draw a Guardian's Pledge or at least a Remosian Rally off this Keep Watch, so we're able to make some favorable trades, but even if not, we're drawing 5 cards. It should be lucrative either way. So we're going to go for the draw, and we do get a Guardian's Pledge, so we get to slam that down, eat all of their creatures, and hit them for 6 damage down to 4, or rather up to 7, because they get some triggers off the Phantom. And we have 2 more Hares to slam down next turn. They Grange up their Luminous Phantom, but they see the writing on the wall, and they click the Concede button. Against White Weenie, you might see that our sideboard looks exactly as it is when we submitted it. We have no sideboard cards to bring in, but that's okay, because maybe we can just do what we did last time. This hand looks okay. We have a Prismatic Strand, which is great against them. Can negate their Guardian's Pledges and things like that. Some Keep Watches can be useful not just if we're attacking with a lot of creatures, as we've seen before, but if they're attacking with a bunch of creatures. So if we get to the point where they have 6 creatures coming at us, we can use that to our advantage. And then some Hares to gum up the ground, make it so that those Novice Inspectors and things like that won't get in. So we're definitely going to keep this one, and they mull to 6. Don't even have a 1-drop because they're losers. We play a Beachfront, and oh, excuse me, they have a 1-drop, Cyclone Eagles, for a Plains, and play a Rafine's Informant. Just going to pitch a Prismatic Strands. A little annoying that we're going to have to worry about that all game, but fair enough. We're going to play down our Hare Apparent and pass to them. They have a Coarse Skyfisher, picking up a Plains, which they replay, and swing for 3. We're going to take it this time because our only game plan here is to play another one, and we obviously want the Rabbit off of it. They have a Novice Inspector for a clue. Get another Plains, so getting, I wouldn't say flooded quite yet, but more lands than we would like based on the cards that we've drawn so far. Played the other Hare Apparent and see what they got going on. They decide not to attack with the Rafine's Informant this time, which I like because I was willing to make this trade, but obviously I'd like to keep my Hare Apparents around a little bit longer. And they attack just for 2 in the air. And they play that Militia Bugler. What does it pick up this time? It picks up another Bugler. You know what? Martyr's Soul can't do that. We draw another Plains, definitely getting flooded now. And Keep Watch, not great unless they swing with 4 creatures here, which doesn't feel likely. If they swing with 3, we probably pull the trigger on one of them just to get something going, but we'll have to see what they're doing there. And they Battle Screech, so doesn't look like they're going to attack with a lot of creatures this turn, but next turn, they definitely will be. So that's looking pretty good. They swing just for 2 with the Core Skyfisher. We get an Idyllic Grange, so more lands, but this next turn, we're going to have to take a decent hit, but we're going to have a Keep Watch. And they decide to attack with the whole lot, and then they take back all of the grounders. So getting me a little excited over nothing. I do a little trick here. I only have the mana to play either a Prismatic Strands or a Keep Watch, but I want to play the Keep Watch, and I'm willing to take the 6 damage. But I don't want to cast Keep Watch right now before blocks, draw 5 cards, and then have them Guardian's Pledge to kill us, because then we would be dead. So I take the damage, 6 damage, and I go to end of combat where I've put a stop. We're technically still in combat. Creatures are still attacking, but if they pump or anything, they've already dealt their damage, so they're not going to be able to deal any more. So that's a nice little trick that allows us to take the damage, not fear dying, and still Keep Watch to draw 5 cards. And we get an Eagles of the North, which we're going to be able to play at some point, 2 Hare Apparents, and a Thornscape Familiar. So honestly, some pretty good draws. Another Plains, though. They Lunarch Veteran and slam down that Bugler. Let's see what it gets. And it pulls up for them a Thraben Inspector. You know what? Not bad value. We get another Plains, so we get to play our Stormscape Familiar and then play a Hare, which gets us 2 more rabbits at this point, and then another Hare for 1 mana that gets us 3 more rabbits. And we get to hold up Prismatic Strands because it only costs 2 now. So we're totally protected. Not going to die or anything. They go for a giant attack again, and then bring back all of their ground creatures again. So we get to block one of their birds, Prismatic Strands, and we get to eat one of them because of our Stormscape Familiar being blue, which is kind of nice. They have a Core Skyfisher, which lets them pick up their Inspector, and they're going to just replay it, get themselves another clue. But this is exactly what we want. We have another Keep Watch, and we have a giant board here. And we draw another Prismatic Strands. We attack with our entire team, knowing they'll probably just Prismatic Strands here, but we're going to be able to draw, 11 cards. So there's basically no way we're not going to draw a creature that we can play off of this, so that we can not die, because we'll have a Prismatic Strands in our graveyard. So I think drawing 11 for 3 sounds pretty good to me. And boom, we get a bunch of stuff. We get some lands, but we also get Hare Apparent. We get another Keep Watch if we need to draw any more cards. Thraben Charm. Of course, we get one of that Guardian's Pledge. Prismatic Strands, Veteran. Veteran is a nice one, too. So we go to our second main phase, and we play a Veteran out. And I could play a second one, but we just want to get these Hares going. So I play a Hare for 1 mana again, and it gets me 4 more rabbits. That's 5 life total. Then I play another Hare, which is going to gain us 6 life and 6 creatures. We're up to 18, and then we play another one, and we're up to 7 more creatures and 25 life. We're doing it! This is so cool. We're against mono white, so we know they can't have a way to kill any of our creatures. Like Prismatic Strands hold them off for a few turns, but we can do that too. So this is looking pretty great for us. They have another Inspector, get themselves a clue, crack it right away, see what they draw. They have a Plains and another Inspector, which we know about. So their board's looking decent. It's looking okay. But our board's looking a little bit nicer. So we get a Plains. We get to slam down an Eagles of the North to pump our... I did not click these individually for the record. I definitely right-clicked attack with all, but apparently the replays don't show it that way. So how many creatures are we attacking with? Boom. That's 10, 10, 7, 30 creatures coming at them. They don't block, and shout out to our opponent for being a sport about this, letting us do the thing. They don't block our 30 creatures. We Guardian's Pledge, and we hit them for 125 damage, down to negative 101. And this is exactly what we wanted to be doing with this deck. Absolutely fantastic. We were able to go wider than the mono white go wide deck, which felt absolutely phenomenal. We have another pretty reasonable hand here that we're going to keep. Start with a beachfront, see what we're up against. More blue and Fairy Miscreant. So against Mono Blue Fae, it looks like. We're going to play a Hare Apparent, pass back to them. They get to Moon Circuit Hacker Ninjutsu, draw a card, and they just pass with their 1 mana up. We're going to attack with the Hare Apparent. They Brine Barrow Intruder it, so they don't take any damage, but we don't lose our guy or anything like that. We just have a Lunarch Veteran and a land drop. These Prismatic Strands could be pretty good against the Fairies, I will say. Remosian Rally could be good too. Keep Watch, maybe we'll be able to use to draw off of their creatures. But of course, we are susceptible to counterspells, so we'll have to watch out for that. They're going to swing with the team, and I'm happy to try to trade for this Moon Circuit Hacker here. But of course, I know they might have another Brine Barrow Intruder, but I don't want them to get value off of this if I don't have to. We draw an Eagles of the North, and we're able to Grange up our Hare Apparent, making it a 3/3, which makes it so we have a nice blocker for all their ground creatures, if they don't snap it, that is. And they don't. They just attack with their Fairy Seer, which feels pretty good to me. We do have these Prismatic Strands up if we need them. They have a Fairy Miscreant and pass back to us. We draw planes, so we can flash back our Luminous Phantom. We have a blocker for the Fairies, and we have some Prismatic Strands to keep our guy alive. They Echoing Truth our Hare Apparent, fair enough, but we're going to be able to replay it if we want. And they have a Sunken City, a card I've been seeing a little bit more, but usually as a sideboard card. I'm assuming it's probably a one of, but still. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay blue, and it costs blue, but blue creatures get +1/+1. So they're buffing their whole team for 2 mana every single turn. It looks pretty good now, but if they're not able to kill us in a turn or two, they're going to have to keep using a bunch of their mana every single turn to be able to keep this around. And luckily for us, we have Prismatic Strands in hand. So we're going to cast that. They could Spell Pierce it, but then we can always just flash it back. And they don't, so we get to prevent all of that damage, which is pretty good for us. They have a Snare Master Sprite, but it's just a 2/2 flyer. It's pretty good for 1 mana. But again, they're going to have to pay for it with the Sunken City. And we have another Hare Apparent, so we're able to play both of those out, get a 1/1, and we have that Prismatic Strands flashback. Of course, they are now down to 1 mana a turn until they find another island. They're going to swing with their 3 flyers, which we can't do anything about. And we're just going to leave the Prismatic Strands for another turn. I prefer to leave it for if they ninjutsu something out and try to get that card draw off of dealing damage. We draw another Hare Apparent, though, so we're going to be able to play that and get 2 more 1/1s. So we're looking okay here. We do need to find some more ways to deal damage. We do have a Remosian Rally, I will say, so next turn we can probably go on a pretty decent offensive. They're going to cumulative upkeep. Not cumulative, I will say, that'd be insane, but they're going to upkeep the Sunken City. Swing for 6 here, and we have the mana, so we're just going to Prismatic Strands from hand here. And they have a Force Spike, so don't have the mana for that. We'll flashback. We don't want to go down to 5, it just feels a little bit too risky. And then let the second one resolve, so we're going to survive that. We get another Hare Apparent. So we're going to play that down and make 3 more Rabbit tokens, and now we have a bunch of creatures that we can use to tap for our Rally and our Prismatic Strands, and we have a Keep Watch, and we're attacking with 6 or 7 creatures here. So if they don't have a counterspell, we're going to be able to draw 7, which is pretty nice here. First, we go with the Remosian Rally in case they have a Spell Pierce. We'd actually rather this go through because of the way they blocked. We're going to be able to kill off all 3 of their ground creatures and keep a couple of ours alive. Then we're going to Keep Watch, and they don't have a counterspell for it. So we're able to draw another Rally, which honestly I could have used there to keep alive 1 Hare and deal some more damage, but I think it's better to save it for next turn, and we just get a bunch of other things here. We draw planes and have a Lunarch Veteran that we're able to put down too. We still have a Prismatic Strands in the graveyard, and we're at 12 life, so we're not looking to be in a too bad of a spot here. They're going to attack for 6, and we'll just take it, seeing as we are not anticipating they can kill us this turn, and it looks like we can probably kill them this turn. So I'm going to swing with all of my Rabbits, but leave back my Phantom and my Veteran. This is for the Remosian Rally, because this is exactly 12 damage, but if they have a Snap or any way to block any of these, then I want to be able to kill them with the Rally. And also, if anything goes bad, we can also just draw 1,000,000 off of the Keep Watch. They just have a Spell Stutter Sprite, which they're able to block one of the creatures with, so the Rally is definitely going to just be able to clean them up, deal them lethal damage. As always, when we're not playing against like the top 3 or 4 decks, we don't really have much of a sideboard. I brought in the 2 Thraben Charms as more removal. They can both just blow up a Moon Circuit Hacker, but can also kill any sort of ninja or something like that, because removal is pretty key. We took out 1 Hare Apparent. We have 16 in the main deck. I think taking out 1 for a sideboard option, maybe even 2 is okay. And we took out an Eagles because I don't think we need to have quite as many lands as we have in the main deck. And we actually dropped 3 planes here. We do need an island, but I think we'll be okay. So we keep this hand. It doesn't look amazing, but again, we have some nice utility. They have a Fairy Seer on turn 1. And we draw an Idyllic Beachfront, so not the perfect draw. Obviously, we would have drawn like Lunarch Veteran if we could have chosen, but Beachfront's pretty nice for later. They do have a Ninja of the Deep Hours, though, so they're going to be able to start drawing cards right away. We get our Hare Apparent down, which is a nice blocker for the Ninja, but when they attack with no fear, I know that they just have a Brine Barrow Intruder, and I'd rather not just lose my Hare Apparent right now, seeing as it's my only creature. It's the only way my Thraben Charms work as removal, so we're just going to take the 2. Unfortunately, it gives them another card. I don't want to do that by any means, but I think it's necessary here. We draw a Stormscape Familiar, but I'm just going to pass, leave up my Prismatic Strands. Going to go for the block this time if they offer it, and if they Brine Barrow, I have the Prismatic Strands backup. So we go for the block. Indeed, they have the Brine Barrow. We're going to Prismatic Strands to keep our creature alive. I could Thraben Charm the Ninja in response instead of the Prismatic Strands. It's better if it goes through and it kills it, but if they have a counter spell or even a Spell Stutter Sprite, they'll be able to counter it and still kill our Hare. This way, if they have a counter spell for Prismatic, I'm able to flash it back, keep it around, which I think is really key right now. And also, this can't be Spell Stuttered, whereas the 2-drop Thraben Charm can be. So I think this is the better play. And they just let it go, prevent the blue damage, keep our guy alive. We draw another Stormscape Familiar, so I'm going to play one of them. It's going to allow us to double Thraben Charm if we want, but they Spell Stutter this. Again, I did think they had that for the 2-drop, which means I have to Thraben Charm the Spell Stutter right here, and it's going to cost double mana, or rather 2, the normal amount of mana, because we don't have the Stormscape down quite yet. So a little inefficient, but we still have that Prismatic Strands up if we need it. We're going to pass back to them. They are going to attack again, no fear. And I'm going to block the Ninja, and I have another Familiar in hand, so I'm happy to block the Fairy Seer. They swap out the Brine Barrow for a Ninja, and then play the Brine Barrow, shrinking our Hare Apparent, and we flash back the Prismatic Strands to prevent all their damage, making it so they don't kill any of our creatures. We don't take damage off the Ninja. We draw another Hare Apparent, and we have this Familiar, so we're able to play them both, and then Thraben Charm away the Ninja right away. I could wait, but again, if they have a counterspell or a Spell Stutter, it feels bad. Might as well just get it out of the way right now. They have a Fairy Seer, Scry 2 on the top, and now we're just looking for a good spot to play this Keep Watch. Of course, they do have 2 fairies on the board now, so Spell Stutter can hit a Keep Watch, which is pretty rough, so I don't really feel like I should attack here. Plus, since they have the Ninja, I don't really want to just attack all out, because then they can get a bunch of value back on us. So I think we're just going to pass here. If they go for an all-out attack, I'll probably Keep Watch on their turn, but otherwise, I'm just kind of waiting around until I can get some more Hares and things like that down. They're going to swing it through 2 flyers, but I have a 2/2 flyer because of my Idyllic range, and another 1/1 that I really only need one of these guys around, so I'm happy to block both of them and not let any ninjutsu go through. They do have that Brine Barrow, or rather another one, so they're able to keep one of their guys alive and make a trade for one of them, which is totally fine by me. I get a Lunarch Veteran, so I'm going to play that. They have the Spell Stutter, which is not that big of a deal, honestly. We're able to just get it right back, and just for 1 mana, so we can even still leave up that Keep Watch. And then they snap our Familiar, which is totally fine, not really a big deal. I assume they want to get in for damage here with their flyers, which looks to be the case. I'm going to block the Spell Stutter so they can't ninjutsu that one. And they do ninjutsu on the other one. They're getting all their big ninjas here. But they only had 2 attacking creatures, so I didn't really want to Keep Watch. We draw a Thraben Charm, though, and they didn't even replay the Fairy Seer that they picked up, so they don't have any flyers for this turn, which looks pretty good for us. I will Stormscape Familiar, also means that they can't Spell Stutter this Familiar. So just play that. We're trying to be as patient as possible. Really, if we're able to get this Keep Watch out for 5 or more cards, I think we're going to pull way ahead, but if we just get it countered or only do it for 2 or 3, I think we could easily fall behind. So it's just important to be patient in general in Magic, but I think this is a deck where you might need it a little bit more. We overtap for a Hare Apparent because I forget that it only costs a single mana for these 3 creatures off of this. And then we pass, but we are really building up our board here. So as soon as we get some of our pump spells, it's going to be pretty good. And they Echoing Truth our Hare Apparent, which is interesting. I mean, it's going to give us a bunch more rabbits, but it does set back our blockers this turn, and they go for an attack on everything. Of course, we want our Familiar to live, seeing as we're going to replay all of these, but I'm happy to lose these rabbits. So I double block a Ninja, and I chump the other one so that they can't draw any cards. I can hopefully take out a Ninja, And we do cast our Keep Watch now because we have 5 attacking creatures. They have the Spell Pierce for it, but that's just more likely that we'll be able to resolve all of these Hare Apparents. And their creatures are mostly on the ground right now, so I'm not sure they'll be able to overcome that. So we do get that countered, but we trade for the Ninja, and they just play a Fairy Miscreant, totally tapped out here. So we get to play a bunch of Hares, and I have the Thraben Charm. I just use it on one of their flyers. I don't want them to ninjutsu anything flying. I still have this familiar for the other flyer, and I have a ton of ground creatures, so I don't even need to take out the ninja. I'm not too worried about it. And they go for an all-out attack, and I'm not really sure what they're doing here, because we have blockers out the wazoo. So we block everything, double block, triple block where we can. If they have like an Echoing Return again, we don't really get blown out. Obviously, we lose our rabbits or our hares go back to our hand either way. But we're in a pretty good spot no matter what. They do have the Brine Barrow Intruder, and they're able to shrink the familiar, but otherwise they just trade for their guys, and suddenly, after all that patience, first of all, we draw an Eagles of the North, which is pretty good, but also we just have a bunch of creatures that are able to attack past their guys. We do get counterspelled, so that's a little bit annoying, but we have 6 damage here, and they have 2. So even though we're at 12 life, our clock is way faster than theirs. So we put them to 14. They swing with both of their creatures, putting us down to 10. They don't even have anything to ninjutsu, and just pass the turn to us. We have a Guardian's Pledge, so we're going to swing with the team and try to go for lethal. If they have a counterspell, we'll still just be dealing them 7 damage, so not really a big deal. And they do have that counterspell, but down to 7, we have lethal on them next turn. So we'll see what they got there. They're going to keep swinging, but it's with a Fairy Seer this time. And leaving back the Brine Barrow. They have a Snare Master Sprite, which they're able to kick to keep one of our Apparents tapped down, but we get another one. I realized I should have played it before attacking so that I could have gotten an extra rabbit here. So that's a bit of a mistake. We did swing and they double blocked, which I figured that they would. So that was just a bit of a mistake. I should have played it second combat, or rather first combat. They attack again with the Fairy Seer, and they have another big ninja drawing a card here. Play their Fairy Seer again, and have 1 card left in hand. And we draw another Hare Apparent, and I try to correct what I just did. I just played the Hare Apparent after combat, when I should have played it pre-combat. So I draw another one, and I'm like, okay, I should play this one pre-combat. Not the case here, because if we look at the board, they're at 5 life with 2 blockers. If I attack with everything, they have to block here, and that's 5 lethal damage, which means they have to have a card in their hand that they have to play and has to be relevant to a blocker. One of the cards they could do that with is a Spell Stutter Sprite. Well, if we attack with everything, they're going to have to play that first and chump with it, and then we're going to be able to play the Hare Apparent after the combat. But if we run it out right now, then they might have the Spell Stutter Sprite able to counter our Hare Apparent, and then still not die to our creatures. So I just got in my head a little bit and tried to do the right thing here. They block. They're still in a terrible spot, down to 1 life with 1 blocker, and we have 5 attackers. So they still have to draw really well. They draw an Of One Mind, which they have to pay 3 mana for. Fairy Seer into another Of One Mind, and they have nothing to do. So they do still concede, but I made a minor error that led to a slightly bigger error that could have led us to our death. I will say if they had a Echoing Truth, then they would have been able to bounce all of our Hare Apparents, keeping them alive. Obviously, those would rebuy themselves, but like there's a possibility that they could have won because of the fact that we threw a little bit. Round 5 here, we have, honestly, not a good hand. It looks okay because we have 4 lands and we have 2 of our colors and prismatic strands. We have some good interaction, but the deck is centered around the hares. And as much as I don't want a hand full of 4 or 5 hares, you need a couple because you need to have a way to get them rolling, to start going. And without any of them, if I draw 1, it's terrible. It's a 2/2 for 2. And then I draw the second one, and if the first one's still around, maybe it's okay. But you really need something to get you going. So I don't think this is an acceptable hand, honestly. Especially in the dark, it could just be too slow for a mono red or something like that. So we're going to ship this one back and get a slightly different hand. And this one looks okay. We get 2 Eagles of the North, so with those we have 3 lands. Keep Watch, Hare Apparent, and Prismatic Strands. We do also have a Lunarch Veteran that we ship to the bottom. Might not be the right call if we are against a burn deck of some sort, but I really want to keep my 3rd land, and Prismatic Strands is good for that, and I think I need the Keep Watch, so I think it's the right call, but it is a tough one. And then they start with a mountain, so we're definitely thinking mono red. Of course, they don't play a 1-drop, so maybe if we're lucky, it's something else. They then play another mountain and Reckless Impulse, so I don't think it's something else. We cycle our Eagles for a Plains, and they had a Chain Lightning and a Caustic Flame Breather. So it looks like a little bit more spells heavy mono red. And then I could just play out my Plains and play one of my Hare Apparents, but they have this Chain Lightning. They're going to use this turn anyway. So I figure might as well just cycle the Eagles for our blue source, which I'm going to want to do at some point, play it, and then play the Hare next turn where it's not going to get killed right away, at least not definitively. I don't know if that's the right play, but that was at least my thought process. They play their Flame Breather and Domus for 4 with the Chain Lightning, 3 off it and 1 off the Flame Breather. We draw another Hare Apparent, so we're just going to start putting those down. We definitely want a 4th land so we can start putting multiple of them down at the same time. And they have a Kuldotha Rebirth, off an Experimental Synthesizer, and a Clockwork Percussionist, swing at the team. And I block because I figure might as well, but they have a Lava Dart for a Hare Apparent. Pretty annoying, I'm not going to lie. We draw a Lunarch Veteran, so maybe we can gain some life off of that, but they do have the Lava Dart. If they remember to cast it, then we're going to be in a bad time, and they do indeed sack the mountain to kill the Veteran. So we just have another 2/2 here. They Reckless Impulse into a Galvanic Blast, able to kill off our Hare Apparent, play a Tomb Raider, and attack for 6 here. We're down to 3. And they still have 3 cards in hand. Definitely just nothing we can do here. I think about it for a bit, but we just concede. We're definitely not winning that one. From the sideboard, we have 4 hollows that we're able to bring in, which can offset a Lightning Bolt or an End the Festivities. That's just about it, though, so hopefully those will keep us alive. We have an okay hand here. I think it's acceptable, but not amazing. Lunarch Veteran would, of course, be pretty good. We're going to start with our Beachfront and just pass back to them. And they have a Tomb Raider, luckily no Tomb, I was going to say, Furnace for them to get haste off of it right now. We play our Hare Apparent, and they bolt it right away, pretty rude, and then they have the Relic of Progenitus, attack for 2. We just play another one out because we don't really have anything else going for us. They have a Flame Breather and attack. I have to block here because I don't think I can take the damage as much as I don't want to. And they Relic and sack it right away for a Kuldotha Rebirth. And we're out of creatures, so not looking great. The good news is this Keep Watch can draw us 4 cards off of their creatures attacking, so we're going to need to draw well, but it could be okay. They Reckless Impulse, we're of course taking damage all the while, get a land and a Ren's Resolve, swing for 4, and we're going to Keep Watch them, try to draw into something, and we get another 2 pump spells, a Hollow, which could be okay, and a Plains. So no creatures is the bad part. They Impulse into a Synth and a Mountain. We draw an Eagles of the North. Okay, look, we got a creature. Not really the one we wanted, though. They Experimental Synth into a Caustic Flame Breather. So now we're going to be taking 2 from all of their spells. They attack for 4 once again, and all we have to do is keep watch. So I guess we're going to continue to watch as they pummel us into the ground. Finally draw a couple Hare Apparents and a Prismatic Strands. Might be a little too late, though. We get down a Hare Apparent. Play another one, and then can't even play a Prismatic Strands. I can play a Hollow, but that's just about it. They Synth, taking us down to 4 life, and they have a Chain Lightning. They're able to cast that. I have a Hollow for the Chain Lightning to keep ourselves alive, but they have a Galvanic Blast to us. 2 damage off the Flame Breathers from each of those, and we go down pretty quickly. Overall, we got a 3-2 with the deck, which is honestly better than I was expecting. I was thinking we were going to go 2-3, maybe even a 1-4 if we were unlucky. Is the deck great? No. Is the deck good? No. Look, every single time there's a new card like this, people on Reddit start posting about it. They're really excited, which is great. That's one of the things Pauper's great about, is brewing and everything. And then everybody's like, no, this deck's going to be trash. It's like, well, of course it's not going to beat Grixis Affinity. It's not going to beat Broodscale. It's not going to beat Mono Red all the time. But it's a fun, cool new deck idea that we have that people can enjoy for a little bit. So maybe it's a fad. I'm sure we're not going to see this deck for eons to come. But maybe we'll get another card printed that helps the deck out a lot in a couple years, and it'll actually, be a tier 3 or 4 contender or something like that. Persistent Petitioner is a card that we've started to see recently as more advisors get printed. That's not an amazing deck by any means, but it has some strengths. It actually is really good against Mono Red because of the fact that you can gnaw to the bone to gain life. So it's going to have its place in the meta, even if it's pretty low down, and there's nothing wrong with that. Is this just worse White Weenies? Probably, but we beat White Weenies, and it was pretty sweet. So everyone calm down. It's a cool deck. It doesn't need to be the best thing ever, but it's just fun. Should you give it a try? Absolutely. Maybe try some of those other variants that I mentioned, the white-black one, the white-red, the white-green. Maybe try a 3-color deck. I don't know, just experiment with it. Pauper's beautiful for that reason, and no one needs to be a hater about it. If it's not your thing, just keep trophying with mono red. That's totally fine. But anyway, I'm going to stop my rant now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.